Hey y'all, I'm James Wright and welcome to the shop. Today we're going to be making this all in one video. So this should be a lot of fun. Let's dive in.
If you haven't seen this whole build, I will leave a link to it in the videos down below where I actually go through far more detail. And I have plans available for it on the website now if you'd like to have those as well. We're going to be working with white oak, one of my favorite woods. Incredibly durable, beautiful wood to work with, just a pain. But first thing we got to do is break it all down. And for that, I love grabbing the buck saw. This has a cross-cut tooth in it that just makes really quick work, chops through the wood, and you get them roughly to shape and length. Now we need to get them all to the appropriate width. To do that, we need to smooth out one side, and then we can use that to mark off and mark a specific distance in from one side, and then that will tell us how wide the board is, and we can cut to that line. Slowly work your way through all the boards, clean off all the saw marks, and then you've got your stack of lumber that is ready to start doing all of your joinery on. For this one, it was actually pretty easy. There isn't that much to it other than its drawers, and drawers just mean a lot of others. But the actual frame to it is relatively simple. Now we can start working on the legs, and particularly I want to work on the two curved front legs. And for these, we need to rip down some stock, and we're going to rip it all down into our 1/4 inch thick material. So it's about 3 inches by 1/4 inch, and rip it down. And if you're a patron on Patreon, or a member, I occasionally will go live, and you can actually watch me working in the shop. And that was what I had there, where I just went live and let people follow along. So rip these all down piece by piece, and then we need to plane off the saw marks from ripping it down and doing the resawing. I had to think about that word, wow. So smooth it all down, and we've got 6 pieces that are 1/4 inch thick, bringing this whole stack up to 1.5 inches. I'm going to use Total Boat's high performance epoxy on this, which is great for doing bent laminations. It goes on really well, gives you a decent amount of working time, and allows you to get the work done, holds it in place beautifully. I have several videos on building the frame for this and shaping it all down, but it goes pretty quickly in this one. It isn't a huge bend, but it's enough just to keep you on edge. But if you take your time and do it right, it actually goes through pretty quickly. Once that's done, we can then plane off all of the glue squeeze out and bring all of the laminates down to the same thickness. End up taking about 1/2 inch off of all this to get it down to the final thickness of 3 inch. And I left it on there so I would have the extra to work with. Now what we want to do is actually rip this in half to make the 2 legs. And this is pretty easy. If you just did all that resawing, this is much easier than all that resawing because we're only going through 1.5 inches of wood. But put it up in the vise, chop down through it, and then you've got 2 matching legs with the exact same curvature on them. These will be the front legs on the desk drawers. And of course, smooth off those. Now we want to work on the feet, and these are relatively simple little 2 inch by 3/4 inch sticks, about 18 inches long-ish. Putting a double chamfer on the front to create a little bit of a shape. Just a shape that I like well, and I've used it in quite a bit of furniture, and I really like how it comes out. And just it looks finished, but it isn't that much work, and it just has that little bit of style that I like. Now we're going to go on to the back legs, and we want to actually get these feet to mortise down into these back legs. The feet themselves are the full tenon. So the notch coming out is the 3/4 inch wide of the leg plus the 2 inch tall of the foot. And once we have that in place, now we can mark out and figure out exactly how long these 2 arches need to be. Clean them off and flatten them out, and then we'll go from foot to foot on top and bottom. I guess if you can call it a top foot. Next thing we're going to do is make a half lap joint in the arch, and this will be where the foot then houses in. It will get pinned in place. We can get that all marked out, cut them down, and shape it out. You can start to see how one of these legs goes together. We're going to need to make 2 of these matching on either side. For the actual connection from the legs to the feet, we're going to be using pins, and I'm actually going to be using some black walnut. The feet that go into the back leg are actually going to be drawboard in place, and the other ones are just standard through. Now we need to make the stretchers that go between these 2 leg structures. These are going to have dovetails on the end, and just a little bit prettier, but they're going to be slightly functional. You need to cut them all to the appropriate length, and then we can lay out where the dovetails go into them. But before that, we want to actually lay out where the dovetails need to meet into the feet. And to make sure that they all intersect at the same place, it's easier to lock them all together and then mark out where the dovetails will intersect. The same thing with the back legs. Want to make sure that where the dovetail intersects, they're the same on all of them. Now we can cut down this little dovetail. I'm not making anything fancy, just a little bit on either side, and that's about it for the dovetail joint. In the feet, it's really simple to chop down, pare out, and you have the pin side of the dovetail. In this case, it's more or less just half a mortise. In the legs, it's a little bit more difficult. We want to assemble the top and bottom structure, put the legs together, and then that will let us know exactly where the dovetails need to intersect with those. So we can cut the dovetails on the back stretchers and then transfer the back stretcher marks onto the legs. I'm really rushing through this, and if you want more detail, I have entire videos on each of these steps where I'll go into a lot more detail and talk through it and the layout and marking as well. And with that, we can start fitting in the dovetails. For those of you who know this process, you know that I just skipped a major mistake that I made. If you want to see that, go back and watch the other videos. We can pin it in place, glue them down, and we now have our structure. The last thing we need to do is lay out where the drawer slides are going to go. And these are 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch, and they're going to mortise into the back legs, and then they're going to half lap into the arches. So we're cutting all of the mortises for these to drive into. Then we can put together the leg structure, and then we can mark on the arches where they need to intersect, and then chop down with the saw and pare out in between. Use the router plane to clean it out and get some good marks there for the drawer slides to fit down into. And with that, the joinery on the base is done. We just need to put it all together. A little bit of brute force, violent manipulation, and some glue. Grabbing some I think they were 3/8 walnut dowels, and we'll be putting together with that. Last thing I want to do is chamfer all of the legs. It just adds that little bit of touch that fits in well with the feet and goes well with it. I am using a Total Boat high performance epoxy again for the glue up on this. Don't really need to use that. I'm using it because it's great for gap filling and also gives me a long working time, but mostly because it was sitting on my bench at the time and it was faster to do that than it was to go find my wood glue bottle. But we can pound it all together, and we have our base structure. Yay! And I really like how this came out with the open shapes and all. It made me very, very happy. Next thing we want to do is work on the drawers. For that, we need to cut all the pieces to length, make sure that the front and backs are the exact same length and the two sides are the exact same length. And then dovetails. One of the most beautiful parts of woodworking that everyone's like, ooh, dovetails, hand-cut, gorgeous dovetails. And dovetails are, they're dovetails. It's a functional joint, and they do really well. For this, I'm actually going to be doing through dovetails in the back and then half blind on the front due to high request. I decided not to do my show tails. Sorry. Make sure everything squares out and is happy, and we're good to go. Here's the half blind dovetails. Ooh, fancy half blind dovetails, which I really don't much care for. Part of me is wishing I had stayed with the show tails, but oh well. So there is the drawer box. Next thing we need to do is create grooves for it to actually fit on the drawer slides rather than sitting on it. And for this, I'm actually going to cut stopped grooves with the router plane. And so I'll be cutting down a little ways, and then I'll drop down a little deeper, and then I'll cut down a little ways, and I'll drop down a little deeper, and I'll cut down a little ways, and drop down a little deeper until we get the groove all the way down. With the router plane, you can get that stopped groove so it doesn't go all the way through. You see how it then slides on the slides. Now for the bottoms. We skipped the resawing in this video because no one wants to see more resawing. Did quite a bit of it for this video. Resawed them, glued them together. They're slightly over 3/4 inch, but then we can plane them down with a pillowed bottom so that they fit in, and then cut them to their final shape, pillow the other two sides, and then we can install the drawer bottoms out of a solid piece of white oak. And there are our drawers. Happiness. I'm actually really, really happy with how this came out. On the front of all of the drawers, we're actually going to be putting in an arched section that will match the arched legs, and this is basically where your hand can go in and pull it out rather than putting a drawer front on the. I figured putting this little arch in there with a finger slot just ties it all together and then matches in the arch a bit more. I was going with a few different designs, but several people said they really liked that one, so we would go with that. Now we're going to start working on the docking drawer. This is an electrical outlet that goes in the back of the top drawer, which will allow me to charge all of my appliances. So we need to create a cutout for the socket to fit into, so we can use a handsaws to chop it all down and get it down to shape and make sure that it all fits in there. And you can see how this will slide in there, and it has USBs on one side and then regular 110s on the other. So now it is time to glue together the drawers. Yay, the last bit of gluing. Make sure everything fits right. Do a full dry fit up on everything and then glue it up. Again, I'm using Total Boat because it gives me a lot more working time. It's a stress-free glue. It's incredible strong, and it has a really good gap filling. So if you do have a lot of gaps, the epoxy will really help you out. So now we have all those glued up, we can start doing all of the finish prep. You see how these slide on there and are very happy. Next, we want to actually smooth up all the drawers, get all the glue off, and so we're going to plane from the outside to the inside so we don't break off any of the end grain. Clean them all off, smooth them down, and detail them out, getting a good smoothing plane set on there and make them happy. We want to run around the rim and make sure that that's flush all the way across and around. And there are our drawers basically done. I'm going to do a last minute card scraping before applying finish, but that's about it for the drawers. Actually, at this point, I think it's all done and ready to go. Of course, you got to fit in a drum solo because why not? Last little bit of detail, cleaning up the pins. We have a lot of little glue squeeze out we need to clean up. A good sharp chisel does fantastically. I'm using Rubio Monocoat for the finish on this. It looks and feels almost identical to a boiled linseed oil finish, which I love, but it is highly protective, and so it will allow this to be a durable finish, but still getting that nice finish, nice satin soft finish on it. Putting some Johnson paste wax in the drawers, and they slide in beautifully. Here's that docking drawer, so we can fit that into place and make sure that everything swings in it. You can see how the electrical holds on this, so it will slide in and out, and I can plug in all my electronics, close the drawer, and have it all in there. Really happy with this. I'm using this all the time to plug things in and get them out of the way. It clears up everything so that all my drawers can work together. And I am really happy with how this came out. I'm using this drawer system every day, and so far it has been exactly what I want. And there's a reason I've been wanting to build it for over a year. Happiness.
So there you have it, doing this all in one video. This has been a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to using this for many years to come. Docking drawer and everything. I'm really excited about this, if you can't tell. If you'd like to build this yourself, I have plans available and links down below. I'm selling this as a set, as well as the whole desk and this as a kit together. So if you want those, go take a look at that. So as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts, ideas, comments down below. I do read through all of them, and I would love to hear what you think about this. Is there something you think I could do a little better, or something you've learned from this? I'd love to hear that. So I think that's about it for now, and I do want to say a huge thank you to the patrons on Patreon. You guys are the ones that make this happen. So thank you. Without patrons on Patreon and members here on YouTube, this channel would not be here. If you do ever see anyone who's scrolling over that side, tell them thank you, because they're the ones making Wood by Wright happen. So with that being said, I think that's it for now. And until next time, have a wonderful day. To be doing this all as there goes a car. And there goes another car. And there goes another car. And there goes another car. And another car drives on by. Another one here, and another. Okay, enough of that.